I'm here with my friends Dave and Angela Daniels, and they went through a trial last year that in the end brought them hope, and I'm really excited today that they're willing to share their story. So tell us, what happened March 8th of 2013?
March 8th was a day like basically any other day. Got up, Ange made breakfast for us, and they went off to school, and I went to work. And then about 7 o'clock, Ange texted me and basically said, you know, I really am not feeling very well. I got a cough and a fever. And then about 45 minutes later, our son Joe texted me and said, Mom can't breathe, and she won't let me take her to the hospital. She had an elevated temperature, and said, well, I said, meet me at Sutter. You know, take her to Sutter, I'll meet you there. Things weren't really getting better. And I was watching this thing sort of unfold, and I started asking some questions and, you know, trying to prompt them to be a little bit more concerned. And during that time, I looked up at the monitor and I saw basically the last beat of her heart. She just went flatline.
So in your experience as an ER nurse, which thankfully you being an ER nurse in this particular situation, you were able to perform CPR on your wife in the ER room, and you know, but as your, you know, all the experience that you had and seeing Ange there in the hospital room and seeing where the kind of state that she was in, I mean, what were you thinking? What was going through your mind?
If I could paint the picture for you, the room was dark, and because of the effects of the medications, it clamps down your peripheral circulation. So her skin was pale, her extremities were black, her skin was ice cold, and there was nothing promising. So I remember there was a book I read about 15 years ago. It was titled Fresh Wind, Fresh Fire. It's a phenomenal story. It's probably one book that impacted my prayer life more than any other. And it's a story about this church in Brooklyn that when really they began to pray, that congregation was healed, it grew, this church grew, it's just a miracle. The Brooklyn Tabernacle out there, I knew that they have this prayer band they meet on Tuesday nights, and I put a call in over there. And you know, we prayed and got Angela on that list there, and I called a friend that I had made probably about 12, 13 years ago. It's J.B. Collingsworth, just an awesome, neat man. He's a pastor in Georgia, and you know, just really very fond of him. And so, you know, I told him about Ange and where we're at right now, and that I could certainly use some more prayer. And you know, if you would put her on their prayer chain, of course, you know, he instantly obliged. And then he started telling me the story about, you know, that he had been pretty ill, really maybe didn't think he was going to make it. There was nothing he could keep down. And then he told me that he was able to keep down one day some cream soda. He was able to keep down a couple sips. And because to this day he has this fondness and this affinity for cream soda. And, you know, that was all well and good, but in my mind I was kind of questioning, you know, what? I'm going through like kind of the worst day of my life here right now, and you're talking to me about soda pop. I was just at the point to where I can't go back in that room anymore. You know, it was just too much. You know, it was just too much. I was nearing the end of my ability to cope. And so, you know, I kind of forced myself, okay, we'll go back in this afternoon and see what's going on. And, you know, and we walked in and they broke the bed down. It was like shaped almost like a big chair, like a throne almost. And she was sitting up on this throne. And the light was coming through the window and just illuminated this room that had previously been pretty black and dark. It was just lit up, you know, this feeling I got. It was just, man, she just washed. We're just washed in God's love and mercy. It was just there. So I remember walking in and looking at her saying, like, I missed you. You know, it was a long 2 weeks. And then she tried to say something. And I could really, to me it was unintelligible. Her voice was, you know, it was weak and pitched real high, you know, with this thing in her throat for that long. And she's saying something again, and I looked at Joe, I go, well, do you know what she's saying? I don't understand. And Joe looks at me and said, she wants a cream soda. And I'm like, okay, all right, you know, I got it now, you know, JB, you know, your prayers are working, you know, I couldn't believe what I heard.
It was like the cream soda was a reminder that God was with you the entire time, right? That the hope is here.
Yeah.
Well, here you are, and
Yeah.
you are healthy and vibrant.
Thank you.
And how do you feel today?
I feel good, and you know, it was interesting because Dave mentioned Jim Cymbala's book, Fresh Wind, Fresh Fire, and because of Dave reading that particular book, sharing it with me, I have collected probably every one of Jim Cymbala's books, and because of social media, I have the opportunity to listen to his messages, and I do that nightly. The phone rang in my hospital room. I was alone, no visitors at that point, and picked up the phone and, hi, this is Pastor Jim Cymbala from Brooklyn Tabernacle, and your husband reached out to me and told me that you were in the hospital, and I'm wondering if I can pray with you. So as he finished praying for me, I said, Pastor, can I ask you a question? He's like, sure, Angela. And I said, you know, Pastor, I know that I was resuscitated twice, and you know, I was really knocking on death's door. I've seen on television, I've heard, you know, messages, sermons, read magazine articles about folks that have had the experience of, you know, seeing the light, seeing Jesus, being greeted by family and friends that have gone before them. I didn't have any of those experiences. What does it mean? He was quiet for just a second, and then he answered me, Angela, God's ways are not our ways. That's not your testimony. And I said, thank you. I was at peace with that. I have to tell you, after I hung up the phone, it's not that he answered my question. He didn't, in some respects, but I was at peace with it. So once I was released from the hospital and, you know, starting to recover, I really revisited that verse in Isaiah. It's 55, chapter 55, verse 8 and 9, I believe. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. So I said, Lord, reveal to me what that means to me personally. If there is a testimony in there, what is it? Reveal it to me. He answered my prayer instantaneously, and the answer was, when God's people pray. It just brought me peace. And I knew how merciful merciful God is. I'm really a walking testimony. I'm a walking miracle.